Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is Heidi from My Reading Life, and I'm here today to give you an update on how my first week of the Nonfiction November Readathon went. And I have to say it went very well. Things are proceeding very nicely. I have completed 3 nonfiction books so far, and I am in the middle of 3 new nonfiction books, some of which were on my TBR and some of which were not. So let's just talk about what I've completed. The first book I finished was White Rage, The Unspoken Truth of Our Racial Divide by Carol Anderson. In this nonfiction book, Anderson summarizes the racial oppression that has been practiced by white Americans on black Americans. It basically starts with pre-slavery and takes us through in a very summarized and shortened fashion the end of slavery, Reconstruction, the beginning of Jim Crow, and other discriminatory practices that are still currently in effect today. She talks about education, housing, criminal justice system, all of these systems that are designed to oppress black Americans. This is an excellent quick read. It's only about 200 pages long. The author does an excellent job of summarizing the whole history of the United States and how white supremacists and white feelings of superiority have really shaped how we deal with people of color in this country. So A+ read, would definitely recommend. The second thing I completed was not on my TBR, and it's this little book, Dot Journaling, A Practical Guide, How to Start and Keep the Planner, To-Do List, and Diary That'll Actually Help You Get Your Life Together by Rachel Wilkerson Miller. I had been seeing this around BookTube. I think I first heard about it on a Book Riot podcast, and then I saw some folks on BookTube. I think Lauren from Lauren in the Books has been talking about this book. But anyway, I have been bullet journaling, which is basically dot journaling, for about 2 years now, and I use a very simplified version of bullet journaling. I'm not into the whole creative end of it. I'm not a very artistic person. And this book has a lot of pictures and examples of basically simplified bullet journal type spreads and things that you can use in your own planners. And I just found this a nice, refreshing way to sort of recenter myself on my bullet journaling, which I find to be extremely useful in keeping me organized and on track. I am a list person. I've always been a list person. I used to leave little ripped up pieces of paper and post-it notes and the like everywhere, all around my house, in my car, in my purse, everywhere, until I started the bullet journaling process, which has allowed me to keep all my to-do lists in one place. So I find it very helpful. And this was a fun way to recenter myself on bullet journaling. The third thing I finished this past week, was my audio book, and that was Ta-Nehisi Coates' We Were 8 Years in Power. And this is basically a collection of 8 articles that Coates had written and were originally published in the Atlantic magazine. Some of which I had already previously read, but the majority of which I had not. And he also includes basically an essay before each article that puts the article in context, explains where he was in his personal and professional life, and basically how he came to write the article and what he thinks about it now. And I loved this book. On audio, it's fantastic. It really explains the Obama presidency in a very realistic light. Coates has been very upfront that he does not think Obama was perfect. He does not think he, got through his 8 years of his presidency without ever making any mistakes. And he was critical right to the president's face about some of the things that he did not like that the president was doing in terms of the race issue. And these articles do not, give anyone a pass on questions of inequality and racial oppression in the United States. So, and I also very much appreciated his his little essays that went before the articles that sort of put everything in context. And then at the very end, the epilogue is an article that's in I think the October issue of the Atlantic, about America's first white president, and it talks about Trump and Trump's presidency. Oops, sorry. So awesome. I liked this. We Were 8 Years in Power better than Between the World and Me. I think Coates's skills as a writer, you can really see the progression over the 8 articles that happened during the 8 years Obama was president, and he's just come into his own as a writer and a thoughtful person and a cultural critic. So definitely check this one out if it's something that you're interested in. And so now I'm currently reading 3 more nonfiction books. My first audiobook selection that I'm currently into is When to Rob a Bank and 131 More Warped Suggestions and Well-Intentioned Rants by Stephen Levitt and Stephen Dubner, who are the authors of Freakonomics and their subsequent books in the same vein, both of whom are economists and both of whom sort of address issues that you may not think have any economic connection at all, but they sort of look at it from an economist perspective. And I've read Freakonomics and liked it, and I read the sequel, More Freakonomics, or whatever it was called, and also like that. And this book is a collection of their blog posts over the last decade or so, or maybe even longer. So they're little short pieces about different items, and it's really a lot of fun to listen to on audio. They're very short, so you can listen to a few, and you never get sort of overwhelmed by the issue or the subject at hand. They talk about everything from airport congestion to healthcare to names and what names are most popular in the United States, all from an economic point of view. Very much fun. Definitely would recommend this as well. I am also reading on ebook from my library, Evicted, Poverty and Profit in the American City by Matthew Desmond. And this book was not on my TBR, but it does fit the home prompt for the Nonfiction November. And this book, Matthew Desmond is talking about poverty and eviction rates in basically focusing on Milwaukee as a lens to ask questions about how systems in our housing policies have basically made life more difficult for poor people, and especially poor people of color, although he does talk about how these same inequalities in the housing market have also impacted poor whites, and how the system really conspires to keep people in poverty and to just, once you're down and you can't get back out. It's written in a highly readable style. It's not dry facts and figures, although statistics illustrate his points. But this story is being told from the individuals whose lives have been impacted by evictions, and also from the perspective of some of the landlords who contribute to the poverty and eviction rates in all American cities, although Milwaukee is the city in which we're focused on in this book. Excellent book. I'm so glad that I picked it up. I saw somebody talking about it on one of the channels. I don't even remember who. It's been on my radar for a long time, and I was like, I guess I'll just check and see if my library has that. Lo and behold, the online library system had it. It was available right at that moment, and who could resist that, right? So that's what I'm reading. I'm also reading one other nonfiction book, almost forgot to mention it, and that is my presidential biography, A. Lincoln by Ronald C. White Jr. I am currently at 140 pages. This is a great biography. It has little pictures inserted and cartoons from the day or little things about the day. This is also in a very readable format. It's not dry at all. I very much am enjoying it, but it's so thick that it's not a book that I can carry around with me to work and so forth when I'm out and about. So this is a basically in the evening reading before I go to bed. Sometimes I don't have a lot of time between when I finally get home from work and when I want to go to sleep, so haven't been able to get too far along, but I still feel 140 pages is pretty good progress in this presidential biography, learning tons of stuff that I did not know about Abraham Lincoln, so that's great, and I'm really enjoying that as well. So far, I am absolutely loving Nonfiction November. I have some fiction books that I'm probably going to squeeze in here as the weeks go on in November, but I've been enjoying focusing my attention on the nonfiction stuff so far, and I hope to continue and get through the 8 books that I'm hoping to read in November, so that I will beat my monthly record so far in 2017 of 7 nonfiction books read. I hope everybody else is also enjoying some great nonfiction this month, and I will talk to you later.